My friends, the energy around the NovaCare complex right now feels absolutely electric, doesn't it? Coming out of the trade deadline, the Eagles have made one thing crystal clear: they're not satisfied just being contenders. They're building something that feels like another Super Bowl run in the making. And it all starts with Howie Roseman, the man fans across the league now call Ski Mask Howie. That nickname isn't just a joke, it's a badge of honor, earned after another round of brilliant moves that left every GM in the NFL shaking their heads, wondering how he keeps pulling this off. 3 trades: Michael Carter, Jaire Alexander, and Jalen Phillips, each one solving a real need, and each executed with the kind of precision that's made Howie the gold standard of roster building in modern football. So go ahead and smash that like button, and if you can, drop a comment saying, "Go Birds, I believe." Now you look at Jalen Phillips, for instance. The guy walks into Philly and says there's literally no other place I'd rather be. That's not just excitement, that's belief. It's belief in Vic Fangio's system, belief in a defense that just got a lot more dangerous, and belief in a locker room culture that thrives on accountability and hunger. Under Fangio back in 2023, Phillips was on a tear, 6.5 sacks in 8 games before the injury. The synergy between player and coordinator is real, and that familiarity gives the Eagles a major edge. Expect to see him on the field right away, potentially as early as Monday night against the Packers. The guy knows the scheme inside out, and that means no learning curve, just production. Then there's the Jaire Alexander trade, and you can't help but smile thinking about it. The man was a 2-time All-Pro in Green Bay, and now he's wearing midnight green, poetic, considering the Eagles face his former team under the primetime lights. He brings attitude, swagger, and that competitive edge the secondary has been craving. And with Michael Carter's versatility, this defense suddenly has options that most teams would envy. Carter's been one of the top slot corners in the league, playing 85% of his snaps inside, but the coaching staff's plan to cross-train him at safety could be the quietest masterstroke of them all. It's about flexibility, it's about keeping opposing offenses guessing, and it's about having the kind of chessboard where Fangio can move his pieces however he wants. And while those trades stole the headlines, the undercurrent of this moment is about Howie Roseman's relentless approach to improvement. He doesn't wait for problems to appear, he sees them coming and solves them before they hit. Think about how he timed these deals. He didn't wait for the market to set itself. He moved early, avoided bidding wars, and brought in players who fit both scheme and culture. That's what separates him. He builds teams like an architect who already knows how the structure will hold under pressure. You can't teach that. You can only respect it. Even beyond the trades, there's a fascinating storyline brewing inside the roster. Nolan Smith's return adds another layer of depth at edge rusher. Brandon Graham is back out of retirement, bringing leadership and fire. And Fangio, with his fingerprints now fully embedded in this defense, has a mix of veterans and emerging stars that could peak at just the right time. This isn't a group that needs motivation, it's a group that smells opportunity. On offense, the talk around the facility has been about rhythm, and the way this team looked going into the bye week, it's clear they're finding it. Saquon Barkley's breakout performance before the bye was exactly what fans needed to see. It wasn't just the stats, it was the explosiveness, the patience, the trust in his line. You can see him and Jalen Hurts starting to find that chemistry, that unspoken rhythm between back and quarterback that turns good drives into touchdowns. And speaking of Hurts, let's not forget, this trip to Lambeau is personal. The last time he played there was back in 2020, when his era began. Now he walks into that same stadium as a Super Bowl MVP in the face of one of the most complete teams in football. Talk about full circle. But as much as fans are celebrating the moves and the star power, the real story here is about identity. This Eagles team is balanced. It's deep, it's built for November and December, and that's not by accident. Howie Roseman has made it clear he's not just trying to win a game, he's trying to build a dynasty. And when you look at the consistency, 7 playoff appearances in 8 seasons, it's not hyperbole to say this era of Eagles football is historic. 2 Super Bowl wins, 2 different head coaches, 2 different quarterbacks. That's something no other franchise in the modern era can claim. It's proof that the foundation is bigger than any single player or coach. It's a culture thing, and it starts at the top. So as we head toward Monday night, with the lights of Lambeau waiting and a national audience tuning in, there's a sense that this game isn't just another chapter, it's a statement. The trades, the preparation, the culture, it's all converging into one message. The Eagles aren't chasing anyone, they're setting the standard. But now the question for you, the fans, is simple. After everything Howie Roseman has done, the moves he's made, the players he's brought in, do you believe this roster is built to lift another Lombardi trophy this season? Because if you do, you're not alone. Around the league, executives, analysts, and players are looking at Philadelphia and quietly quietly admitting what fans have known all along. This team is different. The energy inside the locker room has changed. You can feel it in every soundbite, every practice report, every moment that someone new walks into the NovaCare complex and immediately starts talking about how professional, how united, and how locked in this roster is. That doesn't just happen. That's culture, the kind that wins in January. Let's start with Jalen Phillips again, because his story feels like a reflection of everything the organization stands for. A former first-round pick, immense talent, hits adversity with an Achilles injury, and instead of fading, he doubles down. He told the media the moment he arrived that he felt rejuvenated and ready to prove something, and that's exactly what the Eagles do best. They take guys who've been questioned and give them a system, a purpose, and a chance to explode. Under Vic Fangio, Phillips is going to be unleashed the same way Haason Reddick was when he first got to Philly, only this time, the defensive front is even deeper. Fletcher Cox mentoring Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter commanding double teams, Brandon Graham adding leadership, and now Phillips bringing that combination of power and length that makes quarterbacks nervous before the snap. You can already picture it. Monday night at Lambeau, the pocket collapsing, Fangio grinning behind that play sheet, and the Eagles defense sending a message under the primetime lights. But if the defense is the hammer, the offense is the blade. Jalen Hurts, still just 27, is playing like a man who's seen everything. The maturity, the calm, the surgical precision, that's what separates him from the rest. You can tell he's in complete command of this team, and when he talks about accountability, guys listen. His connection with A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith remains lethal, and what we saw before the bye week, the timing, the play-action rhythm, the confidence to take deep shots again, that's the kind of growth that makes this offense terrifying. And then you add Saquon Barkley to the mix, a back who can break open a game from anywhere on the field. The offense now has a dimension it didn't have a year ago, a weapon who can make a routine play look spectacular, and a quarterback who doesn't panic under pressure. That combination is championship material, and credit where it's due, the coaching staff deserves love here, too. Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson spent the bye week retooling red zone execution, improving protection packages, and simplifying communication at the line. It's small details like that separate good teams from the ones that hang banners. Fangio, meanwhile, has had extra time to integrate the new defensive pieces, something he's known to thrive at. Don't be surprised if you see some creative packages Monday night with Phillips lined up inside on third down, Carter crashing the A-gap, and Michael Carter rotating back into a safety role in certain sub-packages. That's the kind of versatility that turns an ordinary defense into a nightmare for opposing coordinators. Then there's the bigger story, Howie Roseman's vision. When you look at the Eagles now, you realize how far ahead of the curve they are. Most teams draft talent, Philly drafts culture fits. Most GMs chase stars. Howie builds systems. He doesn't just build a roster for this year, he builds a machine that sustains. He's mastered the art of being aggressive without being reckless, and the balance between football IQ and emotional intelligence. You can't fake that. That's why when you see him walking the sideline with that quiet confidence, you know he's already 3 steps ahead of everyone else. And maybe that's the most underappreciated part of this whole thing, the consistency. While other franchises cycle through coaches, quarterbacks, and front office drama, the Eagles keep showing up, year after year. 7 playoff appearances in 8 seasons, 2 championships, 2 different eras, and still the hunger burns just as bright. There's a reason national media keeps trying to replicate what Philly does, because the blueprint works. You don't just win games here, you build something lasting. So as the team travels to Green Bay, all eyes are on Lambeau. Not just because it's a classic matchup, but because it's a measuring stick moment. The Packers are a good football team. Jordan Love has been sharp. Their defense flies around. But make no mistake, this game isn't about them. It's about Philadelphia proving, once again, that they set the tone for the NFC. It's about Hurts walking back into the same building where his career began and showing the world how far he's come. It's about Howie Roseman's fingerprints being visible in every snap, from the trenches to the secondary. And it's about a fan base that refuses to settle for anything less than greatness. If you're an Eagles fan, this is the moment you live for. The big stage, the bright lights, the feeling that the season is about to turn into something unforgettable. Monday night isn't just another game, it's a statement. This is the team with the talent, the leadership, and the drive to go all the way. So, what do you think, Philly? Do these latest moves, the trades, the depth, the chemistry, convince you that this roster is built to not only dominate now but stay on top for years to come? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and make sure you're here for every second, because the road to the playoffs runs straight through Philadelphia. And when you think about it, that's what makes this team so addictive to watch. The way it carries itself when the lights are brightest. The Eagles don't just play football, they announce themselves every time they step onto the field. There's a swagger there now, a mix of confidence and discipline that's earned, not given. That's what happens when a franchise builds the right way, when every layer, from ownership to coaching to the last man on the depth chart, believes in the same mission. You see it in how players talk about accountability. You see it in the way veterans mentor the rookies. Fletcher Cox still commanding the locker room with his presence, Brandon Graham coming out of retirement because he feels that something special is brewing again, and the younger guys, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nakobe Dean, soaking it all on like sponges. That's a culture of continuation, a passing of the torch that keeps the fire burning season after season. Howie Roseman didn't just build a roster, he built a legacy machine, and that legacy is built on details. Think about it, every position group now feels reinforced, from the trenches to the secondary. The edge rotation with Phillips, Sweat, and Graham gives Fangio flexibility to stay unpredictable. The secondary, once a point of concern, now looks refreshed with Michael Carter and Jair Alexander bringing intelligence and instincts that perfectly fit Fangio's philosophy, disguise, discipline, and disruption. These aren't just moves to plug holes, they're layers of insurance for a deep playoff run. Every trade this deadline wasn't just a short-term play, it was a long-term investment in sustainability. Then there's the offense, and let's be honest, Jalen Hurts might be playing the most complete football of his career. What stands out isn't just the athleticism or the arm strength, it's his control. He reads defenses with patience, knows when to escape and when to stand tall, and the chemistry with his weapons is undeniable. A.J. Brown looks unstoppable again, turning contested catches into routine plays, while DeVonta Smith continues to remind everyone why he's one of the purest route runners in the game. Add in Dallas Goedert's presence in the red zone and the offensive line regaining its rhythm, and suddenly this group looks like